Hey guys, what's going on? This is Roth. I am here with Chris, and we're going to talk about The Walking Dead, the episode that aired last night. So full spoilers for all things Walking Dead, Alexandria, you know what I'm talking about. Full spoilers from the TV show. Midway through, we're going to talk about some theories from the comics, but I'll warn you then, if you haven't read them and you don't want to be spoiled, you can check out. First of all, what do you think of this new storyline? What do you think of the Alexandria storyline so far?
Well, first off, I think that scene with Carol and the kid,
awesome.
It with the guns was about my favorite thing that's happened on Walking Dead in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, you take this Carol who was this shrinking violet when we first met her, and so like, I don't know, so not the person that we're seeing now, and it was pretty amazing stuff.
I was watching it with somebody and we had such opposite reactions. I was laughing hysterically, not because it's not terrible, because it's horrible. It's horrible. It absolutely is, but it's also hilarious. But he was just appalled, you know, like this poor child. I'm like, well, it's better than her actually doing it, which she definitely might and could.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like this little, Alexandria place, it's like an oasis of unreality.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, watching those two things clash is really fun because, you know, they're like, this is how the world can be. And then all these guys come in, you want to believe it. You want to believe it even as a viewer. You're like, you guys could be happy there. But ultimately, I think the whole point of that horse scene was that you're not going to be happy there. You're not, whether you feel happy or not, the zombies are going to track you down, corner you, and win.
Yeah, of course they are, because they just outnumber. You know, the dead are outnumbering the living at this point. Yeah. Ultimately, you can't win. We're cheerful. I do love the two sides to Carol, though. I mean, it's really fun to watch her kind of play them like this.
For sure.
And I also like that Daryl is actually ultimately the one that's sort of softening to the idea.
Yeah.
And he's so vulnerable. You know, like
he's a little baby. He's just a little Daryl baby.
He kind of is, though. I mean, there's something about him.
It was a nice moment for Daryl where he's like, maybe we got this. Maybe we can just. And Rick is so hardened now.
He is. That's what I wanted to say. Is like it's sort of interesting to watch because Daryl's this guy who's really never had a home, and so I think it almost means more to him to try and fit in, but he's scared too. You know, he's got his wallet. But Rick. Man, we talked about this a little bit. Eric and I talked about this a little bit. I love this new, I'm going to take your stuff, Rick. Like, he's like, I'm going to take your woman. I might take your town.
He definitely is going to take somebody's woman at this place. And I mean, it was an interesting episode for that. Let's talk about the A, because a couple people were talking about it this morning. Immediately it set off triggers, whether this means something or not. Mm-hmm. For me, for the Scarlet Letter, the novel, you know, about, I mean, in this case, it probably means...
Adulterer.
I mean, it meant adulterer in the Scarlet Letter. And it was funny that he got the A put on him right as he was
coveting his neighbor's wife.
Trying to commit some adultery, you know? Like, is it committing adultery if you're the person who isn't in a marriage? Is that still committing adultery?
That's an interesting debate that people who are having affairs have with themselves and their own moral complexity. I leave it to you.
Rick wants to commit some adultery, I think.
If you're the cheating type, I leave that up to you. For me, either way, it ain't right, personally.
Yeah, for sure.
If the person's in a relationship or if you are not good. But hey, no judgment here.
So anyway... in this case, it means Alexandria, I think. It's like, oh, hey, have you gotten your stamp yet?
And adulterer.
Now you're one of us, you know? And clearly Rick and Rick especially, and Carol especially, do not want to be one of them.
Yeah, I think it's that, well, you know what, I think that at this point of the trifecta, the Rick, Daryl, Carol trifecta, who's like hiding the guns and still does not trust this place, that Daryl is the most inclined at this point to try and belong. Rick's kind of somewhere in the middle, like, I'll try and fit in and I'm going to take your stuff if I have to. And Carol's like, no way, I don't trust any of this at this point.
Yeah.
And I think that we as the audience, because every time we've seen something that looks good, it turns to pot, we don't really trust it, especially if there's some Scarlet A. Like, what are you in a cult?
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of weird stuff is going on here?
So let's talk some spoilery stuff from the comics, because...
Okay, we can talk some spoilery stuff. On that, I think it's Alexandria. Now, we're going to talk about the W. The W on the walker's head.
And if you haven't read the comics, this is going past what the show has shown us.
It's kind of like jumping around. It's going a little bit in this time zone in the comics, a little, and some past, yeah.
Right, so the W, what does it mean?
Well, we're going to guess. We don't actually know for sure. So there's a theory going online, so I don't want to totally take credit for it because other people have this theory.
Right.
So I think comicbook.com and a few other sites have talked about these theories, but here they are. One is that it stands for the wolves, right? And that they could be because when they were
Well, explain the wolves for... Well, I guess you don't have to because if you haven't read it, you shouldn't be watching this.
No, well, this actually has to do with they would basically be reworking possibly 3 separate groups.
Right.
But the reason that they think it's called the Wolves is because when they were in the last town where Tyrese died, obviously somebody came in, tore it apart, killed a bunch of people,
right.
and there was on different walls. I think it was wolves not far. The wolves are not far.
Right.
So the wolves could be the DC Scavengers, which is a small group that's not a huge part of the comics, but they're not good.
Right.
And Rick and crew.
There aren't a whole lot of good people left.
No,
to be honest.
they're the kind of people that Alexandria does not want in, and Rick and crew quickly dispatch them.
Right.
But it creates a whole other big problem because it attracts a bunch of walkers' attentions. Okay, it could be that. It could be a new group of people called the Whisperers who wear walker faces. You remember how Michonne and
I just threw up the W. Okay, keep going. The Whisperers.
They basically try to blend in with the walkers by wearing their faces.
I doubt it's them.
Or it could be Negan's crew.
That's who it's probably, right? Here's another, and Negan is the big bad.
Big bad. I mean, he's the biggest bad of all.
That's coming up.
Yeah.
We think he's coming up. We don't know. We don't know for sure that he's going to be in there.
In the timeline, there's still a little bit of time before we would get to Negan, so I'm not sure. They could be escalating the timeline, and bringing him in earlier to give some more conflict.
I think they're going to tease it out for a little while. I don't think we're necessarily going to see... I don't think we're going to see the makers of that mark in the next episode. I think it might be several episodes hence, but who knows? Who knows? I heard another interesting theory.
Ooh.
Morgan.
The W's are crazy ass Morgan?
Could be.
Crazy
Could be a W, but could also be an M if you looked at it the other way. I think it's a W just because of how it's situated on the head, but...
I had read in the theories that I was reading that Morgan even mumbled when he was being all crazy. He's like, oh, there are people wearing the walkers as masks. He even referenced that, referenced the Whisperers.
So that could be interesting. I mean,
I've seen Morgan.
I personally think, I don't think it's the Whisperers personally, but it could be.
Yeah.
But I don't personally think, I think if there was an actual zombie apocalypse and, zombies were so everywhere, you would have people dressing up like them if it worked. If it worked,
I don't know why
that would be one way to survive.
All the time when they're out there, when they're not protected. I don't know why you wouldn't just by default do that.
I would be doing some Thriller stuff. I'd be like, ba-ding-ding-ding-ding, all the time.
Yeah,
that would just be me.
He would survive a long time. I'd be dead so fast.
So okay, of all these theories, which one do you think it actually is for sure? Not for sure, but which one?
Let me say what I hope is happening, first of all.
Okay.
I really hope they're going to turn Rick super bad. I want him to break full on bad. I want him to go escalate. And then they got to bring in Negan to bring in somebody even worse than that. That's what I kind of hope is going to happen.
Do you think Rick is going to just mess this whole community up? Is he actually going to be the downfall of this place?
I think that would be interesting, don't you? It's different, but they've said...
It would be different, yeah, for sure.
But they've said that they're going to stick closer to the comics, Rick is a really hardened guy in the comics, too.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think that would be interesting. But I think my guess is that they're bringing in Negan early.
All right.
And you don't think so? You think it's Morgan?
I don't know. No, I just think that Morgan is unaccounted for this season.
Yeah.
And
And they teased him.
It's interesting because you don't know where he's coming from. I thought when I saw it that he seemed like he was maybe on a better path when we caught up with him at the beginning of the season. But other people had a different take on it. They thought he looked a little evil. So could kind of go anywhere, really. Yeah. And I'm excited about it because I thought this was a really good episode.
Yeah.
And it's a really good stage for what I think is going to be a crazy episode next week.
I think it's been a really good season so far. Really interesting. A lot of fun. Evil stuff everywhere, but entertaining to watch. What do you guys think? Who do you think it is? Or are we both totally off track? Is there some other theory that you can provide for us? Leave your comments on all things Walking Dead and adultery below. And keep it locked right here at IGN.